Welcome to One-on-One with Expert Flyer. I'm your host, Lisa Caslin. And today we're talking about sanity-saving tips for summer travel with our guest, Rainer Jenss. And Rainer is the president and founder of the Family Travel Association. How you doing, Rainer?
I'm great, Lisa. Thanks.
Yeah, good to have you. So, we've been putting together, a nice little punch list of tips for our followers and friends, and we thought, let's really home in on some of the family issues that crop up when you're planning a trip, and kind of once you get there, and who better to talk to than you?
I hope I can impart some wisdom and advice for families out there. Lord knows I've done enough of it myself. And hopefully one or two of these tips can really help make the summer, in particular, travel season more bearable and for all family members, not just the parents.
Absolutely. And, just for those that don't know a lot about the Family Travel Association, just, give us a little high level about your organization.
Yeah, we're really an industry coalition of the leading authorities in family travel. So we've come together as a group that includes some of those suppliers and services that you know well, the cruise ships, the all-inclusive resorts, the tour operators, those that offer the products and services. We also work quite a bit with the media, so we want to make sure that we get messages like summer saving tips and all the kind of information that families need to make their travels more successful and more meaningful. So we work quite a bit with the media. And we also have travel agents who are on board, and we help to educate and certify them to make sure that they really do know what the unique challenges are for families. And if you're a parent of a young child, you know what some of those challenges are. So we want to make sure that travel agents are well-equipped to work with clients who are looking to really kind of travel deeper and far with their families, which we, of course, highly encourage. So you can find information on familytravel.org. That's our web address, so you can learn more about us there.
Okay, terrific. All right, so what are some of the unique challenges for families? What do you think rises to the top? Is, the primary issue, the one or two of those?
By far, the biggest challenge that parents have, and this is not just based on socioeconomics, that's really important, but the biggest factor in any vacation that a family is planning are the economics. Is it affordable? Depending obviously on your family size, the larger, the more expensive. Airline tickets are costly, although in certain parts of the country now is a really good time to fly. But it's that real but also perceived expense of traveling with children. In other words, there are lots of ways that you can save money. With the kind of explosion, if you will, or the proliferation of vacation rentals. Those are great alternatives and much cheaper than traditional hotels and resorts. So there's so much more product out there for families. So, we worry that some of them don't even start the process of planning their trip because they think it's going to be too expensive. When, in fact, if they do some research, they're likely to find that it's much more affordable than they think.
Okay. Do you have, 3 steps kind of? So for someone who wants to, needs to, but is just so overwhelmed by the prospect, what would you suggest they do to find, value in their search?
The first thing that I would highly encourage any traveler, but particularly families, to consider is don't start with a destination. In other words, don't declare, okay, we're going to go to Florida, or we're going to go to California, or Arizona, or Mexico, or the Caribbean, or wherever it might be. Instead, start with what you want to do. Again, whether that's a beach vacation, whether it's something more adventurous that involves hiking, whitewater rafting, whatever those activities might be. Or if you just want to, visit a city. I mean, there are, depending on the age of the children, that's an option. Look, dude ranches are a terrific option that not lots of families and parents consider. So start with the type of experience that you want to have, and that way you have a much broader perspective of the places you can go. And so, for example, Florida this time of year is pretty inexpensive. Whereas destinations like California, I mean, I'm talking about the U.S., obviously, Alaska, they're much more popular with summer travelers, particularly families, than others. So don't limit yourself to the destination. Start by going with the activity. And then I would because also when you pick a destination first, you're limited in terms of your accommodations. What does that mean? If you decide, okay, we want to do a beach holiday, and my family and I, we planned a trip to Hawaii earlier in the spring, and but we started by kind of picking that we wanted to go somewhere warm and as a graduation gift to my son, and we found a fantastic Airbnb, or actually I should say HomeAway, and Airbnb is another option. But these are vacation rental options, and more and more of them are popping up. It provides families with all the resources they need in terms of cooking and eating at home, which is much less expensive and certainly in some cases more convenient than eating in restaurants. So there's really a host of things. But again, start with the activity, and that way you have a much broader plate in which to narrow down your choices.
I like that. And, it's funny, I think I may have been talking to a representative from Skyscanner. Another tip is, if you wanted to go even abroad, let's say, instead of putting the destination in the destination field, you leave that open and you just put in your travel dates. And you can kind of look on the map to see, what flights are the cheapest, and kind of just go there. It's sort of like roulette,
Yeah. No, that's an interesting way to unearth really interesting and unique opportunities, and you say, I didn't think of that. That's wonderful. So great advice. And if
Absolutely.
I may, Lisa, excuse me, the real important one that I so encourage, and it really is relevant for a parent who has a 6-year-old or a 16-year-old, and maybe even more for the 16-year-old, quite frankly. Get them involved in the planning. That's really, really important. So when a parent kind of dictates where a family is going to go for a vacation, oftentimes, sometimes the kids don't even like the choice. They don't feel vested that they've made some of the decisions. They think they're just kind of being dragged along. But if you get your children involved at the very outset in helping choose, again, the activity and the things they want to do, and then help with the location, they're going to be much more engaged, much more interested, because they were part of the decision-making. And that's a really
great
important.
idea. That's a great idea, because, particularly when you go at it from the activity standpoint, because, they may compromise a little bit more on the location if they know, well, I'm going to get to jet ski,
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to be great.
They'll be on board. I love that. Hey, we want to talk a little bit about air travel because, most of the folks that follow us, are into that topic. So do you have any specific tips about flying and maybe some of the issues, whether it be cost or just controlling your child on the flight? I mean, a lot of people complain about crying children and children who are not being properly supervised by their parents on planes. Any advice there?
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, it's such a broad kind of spectrum of behaviors that you're dealing with. But I think that's even more important to consider the child's age. So if it's a baby or a preschooler, they're hopefully people are compassionate and somewhat understanding if kids aren't perfectly seated and behaving and not kicking the seat. But when they're older, then it's I think certainly the parents' responsibility and to their children, but also to the other passengers, that they try to talk to their children beforehand about flying and the impact that has. But here's one thing when it comes to airline travel that I think is very important, I think for your audience and a lot of families, and that is this issue of guaranteed seating together. Because many airlines, excuse me, if you've tried, particularly when you book online, don't necessarily have, let's say, 4 seats together, which, let's say a common or typical family of 4. So you end up getting 2 aisles, 2 middle seats, maybe 2 windows. In other words, they're not all together. And there's a false sense of security, and the airlines perpetuate this, that somehow it'll all work out. When you get to the gate, they'll switch the seats. If they don't
we'll be able to fix it there.
If they don't do it there, then they're going to, get some kind of passengers who are willing to cooperate and, switch seats. That doesn't always happen. And we get lots of emails and complaints from people who have been kind of caught in this very unfortunate scenario where they have no choice but to be separated from their children. And some, I've heard as young as 4 years old, one even had autism. So these are really unfortunate situations. So yes.
Oh, boy.
And the airlines are really not responsible. We tried to work with, in fact, we did work with legislators in Washington to try to pass a Family Flying Together Act as part of an FAA reappropriations bill, which unfortunately didn't work. But it's preventable. In other words, yes, even though it's not fair, you might have to pay the premium to have all 4 seats together. But a way to even avoid that is to ensure that you book early, because most of those seats that are usually in the back of the plane and without the premium are open and available a good 3 to 6 months before flying. So if you're doing last-minute flying, that could be tough. But even better, work, plan in advance, and also work with a travel agent. Travel agents may not be able to guarantee you seats together, but they do have relationships with airlines, and they have definite partnerships and relationships with resorts and hotels, and in some cases, these vacation rentals. So, and cruise lines, and a whole host of vacation options, because a lot of consumers, a lot of parents think that there's a premium or it's more expensive to use travel professionals like this, when in fact they're not more expensive as a whole, and they can provide upgrades and services that you couldn't get as a quote-unquote regular consumer who's booking everything on their own. So
yeah, I violently agree with that. In fact, we did talk to Valerie Wilson Travel about this very topic, and it's, with the onslaught of, online booking, you don't really hear a lot about travel agents anymore, but they really do earn their keep. They do, because they buy en masse, they do get good discounts, and any, marginal amount that they take for their services usually is a wash because they're able to get you better prices.
Yeah, exactly. And Valerie Wilson, by the way, is a terrific one. And they're a member of the Family Travel Association. They're really committed to helping families and parents in particular, plan those great vacations. So, great advice.
Awesome. Well, this is great. I love your advice. If there's anything else that you can think that we should know that we haven't asked, let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna say have a great summer, and we hope to have you back again.
Would love to. Thank you, Lisa. And if I could shout out one last tip, if you will. Look, if you have children that are not in school, and even if they're in grammar school, which would perhaps even include middle school, you don't have to travel only in the summer, particularly for those that are preschoolers. Because that's the busiest time of year. That's the most expensive. If you have preschoolers, just go in September or October, or go in May, April or May.
Right.
That's when you're going to get real cost savings. And for parents who have children, we do at the FTA do advocate that it's okay to take your children out of school for a week, for a short period, to either extend a vacation or to plan one altogether. Because travel, quite frankly, is the best education a child could have. And that includes Disney, that includes cruise lines, which, seem to be only kind of entertainment-based. But, children learn a lot from being outside their typical environment. And so summertime is busy. We should all be getting away for sure. But, again, it's okay to consider those non-peak times, particularly when the children are younger.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Reiner.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I really enjoyed it. And, happy trails, everyone.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.